Hey, welcome back to another Lloyd Through the Mighty Mini Camper video. You may recall in a previous video I had shown how we keep our rear barn doors open, along with my daughter Kez. How we designed that, how we built it, and how we used it. In that video, I did mention that I thought I needed to beef it up a little bit. So in today's video, I'm going to show just a little bit about how I went about that. I basically just replaced the 16th inch, half-inch by half-inch angle aluminum with something quite a bit beefier, 1/8 inch, 3/4 by 3/4 angle aluminum. That's pretty pricey stuff, but you can pick it up at a local aluminum manufacturer for probably a little bit cheaper than at Home Depot. Plus, you get the added benefit of them being able to cut it to your exact length that you need, so you don't have any wastage. So that's what I did. So I've got my beautiful wife Charlotte helping me film today. I'm home with her for a couple of weeks before I head out on another trip. I've got the awning out here so you can see a little bit how the doors will work with the awning in position. Really nothing different other than just beefing it up quite a bit. Here's this angle aluminum, and I've put a number of different pegs in so that I can hold it in different positions. We'll leave that one on the wide open position there. And here's our main cooking door. And this one also has 4 positions. This is the wide open position. This is the more typical private position, kind of in line with the awning right here. And I even added one just inside of that. If it's raining outside and we want to protect things just a little bit more, I can even close that down just a little bit more, a little bit cozy in here. But that's how it works. And it was a fairly windy day today as I was working on this, and it seems like they're holding up pretty good. So we'll do some testing on our next trip, and I'll let you know if this isn't sufficient, but I think this is pretty good. I decided not to put one on the bottom, and if I need to, we can do that in the future. But for now, we'll just try these and see how they work. So here's a look at the finished product. You can see it's basically the same as what we had before, although with a better bracket attachment at the door frame and with multiple pegs at the end of the bar that allow for adjustable setting of the door open width. Here's a look at the door frame bracket attaching the swing arm. And you can see I've replaced the eye hook with an L bracket that is securely attached to the door frame, and then the swing arm is attached in a similar fashion as before with a bolt through the end with a lock washer and a couple of nuts, although I'm not sure that second nut is actually doing anything. I used a 2-inch corner L bracket that has 2 holes, thinking that would be sufficient attachment for it, but also fairly low profile, not sticking out too far into the trailer. For attaching the L brackets to the aluminum frame of the door frame on the trailer, I used a pretty beefy screw, a number 12 screw, 3/4 inch long. Don't need to go too far into that door frame member, but I'm hoping that that will hold up over time. The holes in that L bracket are not quite big enough to allow a number 12 screw, so I drilled it out using a 1/4 inch drill bit. You can see that my workbench is in dire need of a little bit of attention, so hopefully I'll get to that after this project's done. So the next step was to measure and cut that aluminum angle. I used a grinder, which I don't think was probably the best tool for that. I think probably just a hacksaw or a sawzall would have been better. That 1/8" aluminum is pretty thick and made a little bit of work. The edges needed to be cleaned up a little bit with, I have a grinder that I used for that, or just a hand file also works pretty well. That aluminum is pretty soft. And now to place those pegs in the end of the swing arm to hold the door in place, I used that same screw, that number 12 by 3/4 inch screw, and I measured out where I wanted those pegs to be positioned and then drilled a hole. I used a 9/64 inch bit and then just screwed that number 12 screw right into the aluminum arm. Since that hole is a little smaller than the screw, it seemed to seat quite firmly into the peg arm. Following that, I needed to take off the tips of those screws, used my hand grinder, and also kind of buffed off the edges of that screw, of those screws in there, so that as I'm using it, it doesn't catch my fingers, kind of take off the sharp edges. So here you can see those pegs in use at the top there, with 4 different pegs that I can use to adjust how far that door opens up. Now for attaching that swing arm to the door frame, you can see the final product here. And I used a 1/4 inch bolt, not too long, trying to keep it short and out of the way. And I needed to drill out a 1/4 inch hole so that bolt would fit through the aluminum angle. And here is the other side. I just repeated the same process for that side, trying to measure and place those pegs on the swing arm at the same position as on the other side so that when the doors are opened, they look symmetrical. Overall, I think the project went pretty well, pretty straightforward, which for me is always a win. And we'll see how it holds up over time.
Hi, thanks again for joining us in this video with the Lloyd 3 the Mighty Mini Camper. If you like this content, please
Like
subscribe
and hit that notification button.
See you next time.